Welcome to Vertical Capital's YouTube channel. Today we are here to talk to you a little bit about our journey from where we started to where we are today. If it's your first time viewing this channel, thank you very much for tuning in, because guess what? This is our first time recording something. With this channel, our goal is to really be open with you guys to let you know where we started from and where we're going. As far as a direct private lending company, hopefully you'll be able to get some golden nuggets on a whole lot, from wholesaling to listing properties to fix and flip. And if you aspire to be a private lender, we'll drop some nuggets on that as well. And just pretty much be an open book. That's the goal of this channel. With that being said, I'm sitting right next to my co-partner, my co-founder, Elridge Moore. He's gonna dive in a little bit about his background, and we can get started from there.
Hi, everybody doing? This is Elridge Moore, co-founder of Vertical Capital, and how I got started in real estate. I was a collegiate athlete. I played basketball at the University of Louisiana Lafayette. In my senior year in college, I knew that I didn't want to pursue being a professional athlete, and I saved my.
Why you didn't want to continue with a professional athlete?
Just because I felt like awareness is key when being successful, and I felt like I wasn't the best player to be able to provide for my family financially.
So you wasn't good?
I was good because I started.
You just said you wasn't good.
No. I was good. So I played in the Sun Belt Conference at the University of Louisiana Lafayette, and I started at the power forward position. So I was undersized, and while I was playing with guys like Alfred Payton, Sean Long, Brian Bomalu, these guys, Casey Shepard, all these guys some of them went overseas, some of them played in the NBA. I was just a role player. So I was good at my role. All right. And I wanted to provide for my mom. You know, she struggled financially, different relationships and things like that, and that was my sole motivation. And I knew pursuing athletics overseas wasn't the right path to provide for her.
That's good, knowing what you're not.
Yeah, knowing what I'm not. Knowing what I'm not. You know, so in college, I discovered Robert Kiyosaki, and there was an interview Oprah Winfrey and Robert Kiyosaki had where he was talking about Rich Dad, Poor Dad, the cash flow quadrant, assets versus liabilities. And what he was saying made sense to me. So when I was in college, I decided to graduate, and then immediately get started in reading his material. So I went to Barnes & Noble in 2014, and I bought his book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And in his book, he talked about assets and liabilities. He talked about attending seminars, 2 seminars a year. And I heard on the radio that they had a seminar that Fortune Builders was hosting in Miami. And like I said, I saved $3,000, which was my financial aid money, my refund check in college. And I took my family to Miami for one day. We drove all the way to Miami from New Orleans.
On $3,000?
Well, really, I didn't spend the whole $3,000. It was probably like $800 I spent.
All right.
Because my brother chipped in too. So we drove to Miami just for the seminar, and the next day we drove back.
Wow.
But at that seminar, I gained all of the information I needed. And at the seminar, they was talking about real estate wholesaling, where you could get started in real estate with no cash, no credit, and no experience pretty much. So I got started in real estate wholesaling, and every single year, I just did more and more business, gained more experience with evaluating properties, to making offers, to negotiating, and also building a community, a network of people where I could like lean on for certain things when I bought my first house, like contractors, meeting you through wholesaling and things like that. So that's how I got started with real estate wholesaling.
What year was that when you got started in the wholesaling?
It was 2014. Tell us about how you got started.
Oh man, so my journey is a little bit different. I don't have that rags to riches story where I was poor, searching for something, and trying to get rich. I had more of, I want to say more like an organic or path, right? I gotta attribute a lot of stuff to Home Depot. I graduated from high school. I'm like in my early 20s at this time, 19, 20, started working for Home Depot. and you know, it was my managers. I was surrounded by great people at Home Depot. Y'all be walking into them stores thinking that these Home Depot employees ain't got no money. They got money. I was surrounded at that time in like 2000 and 2001. I had 3 managers that had a portfolio of rental properties.
Oh, wow.
I mean, and they would instill in me every week about, you know, hey, when you graduated, I went to Xavier University of Louisiana, and when you graduate, get a good job and immediately start buying properties. So I would heed their warnings about that. I was working 20 hours a week, 10 hours on a Saturday, 10 hours on a Sunday. And then after I would get these lessons from them,
Where's that same work ethic now?
Yeah, I'm burnt out. Home Depot took it all out of me. But I would work the 20 hours, go back to studying. I graduated in marketing and business and stuff like that. I knew at that particular time while I was working part-time that I was going to buy my first property once I graduate from Xavier. And that's exactly what I did. Throughout the years, I saved up my tuition money, student loans. You know, I would beef up my hours to get the refund check. I would get the refund check, and Home Depot would pay 50% of my tuition. In my 20s, I was already investing in stocks. I had a 401k through Home Depot. I was buying their stock, which I still hold their stock to this day, actually, inside of my 401k, my retirement portfolio. And once I graduated, a year later, a few months later, Home Depot promoted me. So I was making like 40 grand in like 6 months. And then when they promoted me, the very next 6 months, it was time for my raise. Yeah. So I went from 40, I was making like $9 an hour, graduated, started making 40, 50,000, sometimes 60,000 because we were bonusing. I was getting bonus checks and stuff like that. And then in 2004, I bought my first property.
So you mentioned buying your first property. Was it a fix and flip property or buying whole property? What was your strategy?
So at that time,
in the beginning?
We ain't call it buying whole and all that, y'all. That wasn't how it was. It was just you buy a property and you use it for rental. That's it. All this new terms, the BRRRR and all that, I didn't even do that. So in fact, I only knew of that only strategy was to buy property for rental purpose. Okay. So I got a loan with a large company. I might remember Countrywide. They were bought out by Bank of America, and I got a 203k loan, and I renovated a property out in Central City. New Orleans is uptown. It was really, really rough at that particular time. Now it's super gentrified, and I was all in on this property, about 80,000. My mortgage was like $800 a month, and pre-Katrina rents on a 3-bedroom, 2 baths was somewhere like about $600. So I was getting $600 aside. It was a 4-plex. I ain't know no better, y'all. I converted it into a double, which I probably should have. Knowing what I know now, I should have just kept it as a 4-plex. Converted it into a double and was making $1,200 pre-Katrina, and having that $400 aside. It didn't get flooded for Katrina, and then after that, was able to put it into commerce.
All right. You mentioned Katrina. Elaborate on what's Katrina, because we don't know who our audience is.
So Hurricane Katrina, 2005, a major storm. New Orleans. It's probably one of the most devastating weather-related events in my lifetime.
Yeah, in my lifetime too.
That I've had. It completely wiped out the entire city of New Orleans. So y'all got Google. Go and Google it if you don't know. 2005 Hurricane Katrina. But yeah, so go ahead about what you was about to say.
Yeah, so I was just gonna say, take us to like the mindset, of buying your first property, because I think we, off camera we was discussing, how we was different in the mindset of buying your first property and overcoming fear, or if you didn't have fear and things like that. So take us like into your mindset, and then I guess I'll go into how I overcame.
So for me, I wasn't scared. I have no idea why I wasn't scared. Maybe because I talked about buying a property for 5 years. It took me more than 4 years to graduate from college. I'm embarrassed to even say. But all that time that I was in college, again, I was prepping, right? I knew that I needed to save. Y'all with the 3%, 10% down payments on your primary residence. I had a 203k loan, so that was considered my primary residence. We had to come up with 15, 20%. back then. So for me to save the 20,000, it was just a go, right?
Yeah.
Immediately after I graduated, I started calling banks. I was denied before I even filled out an application from Whitney Bank. I'm not afraid to say who it was. Called them up and told them how, they was like, how old are you? And I told them my age. I think it was a little bit of age discrimination in that. And they were like, they couldn't believe how much money I was making. They couldn't believe that I didn't have any expenses. They couldn't believe that I had a fairly decent credit score at that particular time, but they didn't even run any of that information. So I think y'all call it driving for dollars when you're doing for I found my property by driving through neighborhoods, right? Saw this property, called the agent up. Her name was Jenny Green. I'll never forget her. And Jenny took me by the hand, and she had everything laid out for me.
Yeah.
But everything that could go wrong with this particular property, it had everything. It had lead-based paint. It had asbestos roof. It had slated walls. The back half of the house was coming off. The joists, the truss, everything needed to be changed. It had windows with weights in them, the weighted windows. So this was like a full renovation, but it also had that New Orleans charm, right? It had the original pocket doors. It was what we call an original camelback. It's not an addition. It was original to its build or whatnot. I had everything that could possibly go wrong, went wrong. I was buying materials, leaving the materials in the house in the middle of the hood, and of course they got legs a few times. They got legs a few times, and you think I learned my lesson? I didn't.
So the material just walked out of the house.
They just walked out of the house, man. I was running low on rehab costs. I was trying to get I was getting crackheads to paint, and I was getting crackheads to sleep in the house so nobody would steal it. But guess what? They probably was the one stealing from me.
Yeah.
Or whatnot.
Yeah.
I was buying. I bought my contractor an air gun. I didn't know I wasn't supposed to buy him his
material.
his tools.
Yeah, his tools. Yeah.
I bought his tools or whatever. My 203K inspector. He thought me and the contractor knew each other, so he was passing certain things on the inspection that wasn't done, and he was, giving us the draw on that. So it was a number of different things, but for me, I wasn't scared. It took me a little longer than what I wanted to, but at the same time, I was able to get some income going prior to Hurricane Katrina.
Yeah.
So a little different.
Yeah. So for me, I had to lean a lot on books and personal development because I had to have a paradigm shift. Because in high school and in college, I was just an athlete that did enough in school just to be on the court. With that mindset, make a transition into business, I'd had to do a lot of personal development.
Right.
And with wholesaling, see, my strategy was a little bit different. Like Anitra started with buy and hold. I started with real estate wholesaling. And if you don't know what real estate wholesaling is when you market to distressed sellers to get a property under contract, and you sell your contract to someone that's looking to buy and hold and fix and flip. When you get a property under contract, you have equitable interest in this property, and that make piece of paper valuable, sell your position. So pretty much you middleman in a deal.
That you want to add to today's podcast?
Nothing I want to add. I just want to say, just like, subscribe, and comment.
And comment below on what you'd like to see.
Yeah, we're looking for engagement, and we're going to do our best to reply to any questions you guys have on this channel.
All right. Thank you. Till next week.